Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a bunch of different charts that are going to be showing how identical a lot of the cycles today look to some of the best setups that we saw in altcoins back in the last bear market. Many altcoins that are accumulating today look just like some of those altcoins that ended up performing 50 to 100x returns once the new bull market started. So for today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a bunch of different setups that are looking to be taking off in a huge way, and all of us are going to be able to have a massive opportunity of being able to accumulate these before the big bull market starts. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, now here we are to start off today's video. Before we jump into these altcoins, I wanted to quickly talk about the reason why I believe we end up seeing a lot of these same market cycles, because really the gist of what we're going to be talking about today is just how I've been inside of this is now going into my third market cycle for Bitcoin. And so throughout that entire time, I've been able to see a lot of different market cycles play out, and I've been able to see how a lot of these altcoins accumulate, the way that their cycles end up playing out over the course of an entire cycle, bull run and bear market. And what I've noticed is that many of these altcoins that, there's always a new cycle. Inside of every new cycle, there's new altcoins that get added. All those new altcoins take off, and that's kind of what fuels every new bull cycle. But what I've noticed is inside of every single new cycle is the fact that a lot of these new altcoins end up making the same sort of market cycles that the last altcoins did in the prior cycles before them. And so every single time there's a new batch of altcoins that get added to the market, and then we go through another brand new bull cycle, a lot of those markets end up performing in the same ways that maybe Ethereum did in their first cycle, or what some of these other really good returning altcoins did in their first cycles. We oftentimes see a lot of the same market structure. And so what we're going to be talking about here is really why I believe that we see that. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that basically since 2015, and you could even say since 2013 for the most part, but pretty much since 2015, we've actually seen every single one of our bear market bottoms has happened exactly 4 years from the last bear market bottom. So we know that we've been following these 4-year cycles, and we can actually analyze this based off of the time in between each. So from this low to this low was 1,428 days, and 4 years equals 1,450 days. And we actually saw the exact same distance in time from this bear market bottom to this one, as well as this one to this one, being 1,428 days. Now, there's a big reason why cryptos are so cyclical, and it has everything to do with the fact that Bitcoin follows these massive market cycles. And so whenever Bitcoin's following this big growth chart that we see on a log scale, Bitcoin's constantly growing, it's constantly expanding, and Bitcoin just so happens to follow these 4-year cycles. So throughout, we always see these new altcoins and old altcoins that continue to see adoption. Those are going to be the ones that end up making roughly these same patterns, and we can see that based off of the way that the charts look. And so for today's video, we're going to be diving into some of these similarities, and the one that we're going to be talking about today is actually going to be Midas DAO. Now, this is just the first comparison that I wanted to make because I do believe that this is really one of the better comparisons that you can see. Now, we have a couple other ones that we're going to get into, but for the start of this video, we're going to quickly talk about this one. Now, what's interesting to me about Midas is the fact that it follows the same price structure as what we saw with Ethereum. Now, this was Ethereum's first bull cycle when it went from 40 cents all the way up to 1,450 bucks, corrected all the way down in that 2018 bear market, went through about 1.5 to 2 years worth of sideways accumulation, and then that's where we took off in 2020 throughout that entirety of that move. Now, what I find so interesting is this is Midas DAO's first bear market ever, and it's in a very similar situation to where Ethereum was back inside of this black chart I have up here. And so if this was Ethereum's first cycle and this is Midas DAO's first cycle, what I find so interesting is that they're actually syncing up and following roughly the exact same price. We can see that this is roughly the same sort of market cycle that we saw. I don't have the entirety of the Ethereum chart down here, but it would look pretty much the same as this all the way through. What we do have is where the blow off top is of the cycle. And this is the way a lot of altcoins are going to accumulate. You're going to see this across the board where they start the new cycle where Bitcoin goes into price discovery, everything breaks out, happens every single bull market, and then that's where you get this kind of consolidation here. In Ethereum, in the first bull cycle, this was actually an ascending triangle, and so you're going to see a different sort of setup. This one itself was more just higher highs and higher lows. it wasn't really an ascending triangle necessarily because we ended up breaking out like this. So in a way, it's a little bit different, but you guys get the idea. It's roughly the same sort of price structure that we're seeing all the way throughout here. They're all just going to vary in their own way, but this leads to a blow off top in the same way it did for Ethereum, and then the same way Ethereum had this massive ABC correction, was like 80, 90, well this one was actually a 94% correction. We saw this pretty much the same stuff happen here in Midas, a big A, B, and a C back down. Now what I find super interesting, if we dive in here to the shorter time frames, is the fact that we continue to follow the same symmetry as well as in the bottom structure, where once we finish the bottom of this bear market decline, we rally back up, make our first attempt at a higher high, we reject and fall back down. And now you could draw this a couple different ways, but to me, this consolidation here and then this final drop looks a lot like this type of a move here, leading into this final kind of impulse to the upside, leading to our final sell-off here. And so I don't know exactly how low this is going to go. Obviously in 2019, Ethereum came all the way back down to retest the range lows. I don't know if maybe we have some black swan capitulation event that's going to play out similar, or whether maybe this is just going to hold support because we won't have one. I don't really know exactly, but the point is not to draw exact targets or anything. It's to share with you guys just how synced up all of these cycles truly are. Because in my opinion, once I was able to actually see what market cycles were, once I was able to understand how cycles worked through time, and I was able to kind of combine all of this together, it gave me a really good understanding of what the heck was happening inside of crypto as a whole. And so I hope that by me talking about this stuff, by me sharing with you guys these similarities, you're able to actually see how cycles work, and then it's going to give you guys a perspective on how to actually follow it. Now, one of the big things I always try and get you guys to look at is the Wall Street cheat sheet, because this in and of itself is the exact same thing as what we see in crypto. These massive bull runs, huge parabolic price movements, massive bear markets that basically erase the entirety of the bull move up. And then we go through these long periods of sideways reaccumulation before the next cycle. And this is very much the same sort of stuff that we see here with Ethereum. It's the same market structure, big bull run, blow off top, fully retrace the move, go through a long period of sideways reaccumulation, and then we start the new cycle. So if we are seeing, these same exact setups repeating all over again in coins that have only ever had their very first cycles, being Midas right here, we're going to expect to see roughly the same sort of setups. Now, the price structure can always vary. We're always going to see differences. This structure and this structure aren't 100% the same. But what's so interesting to me about crypto is the fact that it is so identical each and every cycle. Now, the cool thing about Ethereum is if we come back here and look at Bitcoin back in 2015, the only reason Ethereum even made this exact same sort of setup was because Bitcoin did this. We can see that Bitcoin was the first one to ever create this sort of a bottom formation. And we've seen this bottom formation repeat even today, where we're seeing it inside of Midas down here. This is all the same sort of setup, and it was all started because of Bitcoin. As they all follow Bitcoin, as they all grow around Bitcoin's development, we see them actually mimic the same price action as Bitcoin as well. And we can see the same stuff. We have the range lows, we rally up, reject at the range highs, come down to the mid-range point, rally back up for another attempt to break out at the range highs, reject, and then this is what takes us to our final bear trap, all the way back down to the range lows, and then this is the final capitulation before we start that new cycle, right? And so this pattern here is the same pattern that Ethereum did in its 2018 to 2020 bear market bottom. From this, come back down to the mid-range point, rally back up, reject, and then come back down to the final bear, come back down to this final bear trap, range lows, and then we start the new cycle. And so what I find super interesting here is if we're looking at, generation 3 altcoins that are now inside of their first bear markets, whereas, we're quite a ways past from 2015 when we're comparing where we first saw this exact bottom formation. But when we're looking down here in Midas Dow, to this day, we're still seeing it being repeated. So the question is whether we're going to come back down and then have one more final capitulation like this, or whether we're just going to kind of hold support in here and then start going up again. I don't know exactly. Assuming we don't have a black swan event like what we saw over here with COVID, I would imagine we'd hold better support. But like I said, guys, I'm not trying to draw exact targets. I'm trying to share with you guys just how correlated all of these cycles truly are. They all vary in some degree. This consolidation was a lot more even and symmetrical right here between the range highs, the mid-range, and the range lows than what we saw with Ethereum, where if we come over here and draw a range high, this point didn't even come back up to retest the range highs all the way, and if we draw the range lows, this didn't even come all the way down to retest the true bottom right there. So there is some differences here. There will always be differences. But the thing is, when we see the same patterns being repeated, we don't ask questions. We don't try and overcomplicate so that we don't mess our own trading plan up. And so the best thing to do is, while we're at this early point in the cycle, get positions, develop positions, because we know that they're going to play out in similar ways, not always 100% the same. But you know, if Midas ends up taking off like Ethereum did, you're going to be really grateful over the fact that you just happen to buy relatively early, whether it's the range lows or the range highs at the bottom. It won't matter in the big picture when we do something like this. I can guarantee everybody that bought the range high at $340 for Ethereum was okay with the fact that it did when it went to $4,500 in the bull cycle. So this is just the way things work. Now, if we come over here and actually look at RDPX, what I find super interesting about this chart is, once again, it's following that same sort of bottom formation. Everything's going to be a little bit different here. They're not all going to be perfect, but in this degree where this bottom formation is pretty much the exact same as here, I think it's important that we're looking at this big picture. Now, if we come over here and actually look at RDPX, this is going to be another one of those cryptos that is pretty much doing the exact same sort of bottom formation that Ethereum did. And that's why I say that it's important that we understand these sort of setups so that we have an idea of what the heck could potentially happen as we move into the cycle. Now, obviously, we were really synced up with this exact chart almost to a T, but then we started to get a little bit of variance and started to differ from that exact trend. Now, obviously, like I stated, there's going to be differences. It's not always 100% of the time going to follow the exact setup. But either way, if we remove this and just simply drag it up here, what we're looking at in the shorter time frames, this is just the first ever cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 waves up. And what it looks to me is that we've just finished our first ABC correction, and then assuming this support's going to hold roughly where we're at, if this can be our first new higher high and we hold support here, then we're going to be setting up for another brand new impulse to the upside. And then it would actually be following a little bit more accordingly with what this first chart said. The only difference here is the fact that we're just going through a little bit more accumulation, and that's going to be the way that every single cycle works. You never know how they're always going to develop. Some are going to be a little bit different than others, but the thing is there's a reason they follow these sort of setups, and if we can at least identify them, you know, we can actually look to reaccumulate off of these sort of sell-offs that they're going through. And this is why this is one of my favorite charts, is because if they're following some of the leaders of the entire market, one being Ethereum right here in this white one, if they're following the same sort of reaccumulation as what some of the better performing altcoins in prior cycles have done, that leads me to believe that most likely a lot of that same money that was accumulating those really good performing altcoins are probably stepping into these same ones right here, and that's why they're creating roughly those same setups, because, you know, there's a reason why these look the way they do. It's not coincidental by any means. I can't give you the exact reason as to why or the answer, but I do see that this is something that happens long term. And, you know, I've made a ton of money being able to follow these. I first saw this back in the last bear market in 2018 and 2019. I remember seeing a lot of these altcoins creating those same sort of setups, and because I just simply was able to see these and was able to study these, I was able to see it happen, and I was able to invest money into those, and then a lot of those took off in a huge way. And so if we see the same sort of setups, no matter how the new accumulation of the trend works, even if it varies to some degree, we still have a remarkable opportunity of being able to be early with these. And I think that this is going to help you guys to understand that. You know, if you felt like you're getting left behind and the market's taking off, you know, don't fret by any means. Because if we're looking at all of this stuff, you know, looking into a new cycle, we remember that it took Ethereum a long time before it really did anything. But then once that new bull cycle started, everything went absolutely insane. And so it takes time to get all of this stuff to take off. And if we're looking at, you know, us being somewhere over here in this bottom formation, you're still pretty dang early in the grand scheme of things. If we're still inside of this bottom accumulation, we still have plenty of time that you can still jump into these markets. And so it's not like you're getting left behind. If we're in a true 4-year cycle, like I believe we are, then we're going to have a 3-year bull run. And so there's no reason to get too over ahead of yourself, because that's just what it's going to cause you mistakes. Now, the last one I wanted to talk about today is actually going to be Jones DAO. And in those exact same ways that we were looking at Ethereum and basically talking about how symmetrical the price action is, we're literally looking at the exact same thing here with Jones DAO. Big difference is, the only thing is this consolidation here. We did get some sort of degree of variance. But you guys got to keep in mind that these cryptos have significantly less market cap than either Ethereum did in its first bear market. And so with these, they're still creating the same impulses. And what I think is so bullish about this, both of these setups, is the fact that what we're looking at here is a wave 1, A, B, C, and then we just finished a wave 1 of 3 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So we're having stacking one waves. I've always told you guys about why I think GMX is so bullish, and it actually was because it has stacking one waves as well. So when you're in the early part of a new cycle, you'll see these setups, and we're seeing the same thing with Metis. Actually, this is a wave 1, and this is a wave 1. Metis looks, pretty much the same as the charts that we're looking at right here between RDPX and Jonesdale. It's all roughly the same sort of setups throughout. And so if we're looking at this, all of these are just stacking one waves. We have this wave 1, then we have this wave 1 of 3. And so the next move coming is going to be wave 3 of 3. If this is wave 1 of 3, the next one would be wave 3 of 3, and then we would still have wave 5 of 3 before wave 3 is even done. And then that would complete wave 3. We'd have this big correction back down, probably all the way back down to here in some way. It's hard to say exactly what it would look like. Something like this. And then we'd still have another wave 5 to go after that. So we're so early in the big picture of this. And I don't know exactly how all of this is going to look, how it's all going to accumulate. I have no idea in the entire world. But when I see stacking one waves, when I see the same sort of setups that we saw taking place to Ethereum's first bear market, this is what happened after into that new bull market. It might take more time. It might take a little bit to get to that point. It might take a full 3-year cycle before we're sitting at new all-time highs. But regardless, if you're in here accumulating at the range lows at the bottom of the bear market, this is where the opportunity lies. I was able to make so much life-changing money off of not necessarily that much at the very bottom of the last bull market, and I was really only investing at the very beginning of 2020. So if you're in here now at the very bottom of this bear market as we're just beginning the new bull trend, I think you're going to set yourself up to make a lot of money. So I wanted to give you guys this video to just basically summarize what these cycles look like, how I'm trading them, what I see is going to happen big picture, and how we're still relatively early in the big picture and there's still a lot of stuff that's going to be taking place. So if you guys found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to be able to follow these trades, every single one of these have been signals ever before I talked about them on YouTube. So if you guys want to be able to follow all those, see what I'm investing in, where I'm taking profits, any sort of leveraged position trades, anything like that at all, links are in the description. If you guys want to follow along on my Discord server, it's going to be a lifetime membership, one-time fee. Once you guys are in, you're always going to be able to have access to that, see anything that I'm investing in, even aside from crypto as well. So check it out. Links are in the description. And with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.